So once again, welcome everyone to our 2023 hybrid annual general meeting. As you will see from the agenda, our AGM includes some obligatory annual general meeting activities, namely the review and acceptance of past meeting minutes, financial statements, and appointment of the SMA's auditors. Our AGM this year will also include a review of proposed amendments to SMA bylaws. The SMA's annual general meeting is conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order, and we are also recording this virtual meeting. The SMA Board of Directors have named a mover and seconder for all perfunctory AGM motions to help with the flow of the meeting. All right, I'd like to, before we get into the business of the agenda, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. So given this is a virtual meeting, we acknowledge that the land on which we are gathering and participating in this meeting today are from several treaty territories, and many of these territories are homeland of the Métis. I am situated on Treaty 6, land and homeland of the Métis. We pay our respects to the traditional caretakers of this land. We affirm our commitment to reconciliation, our shared stewardship of the land, and our relationship with one another. We honor First Nations and Métis peoples' histories and cultures, and we strive to address the gaps in health outcomes between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. I am now pleased to ask SMA President Dr. Annette Epp to convene the AGM.
Good morning. We have changed from our fancy shoes to our sneakers today because it's Saturday. So thank you everyone for staying, and those who are online, thank you for joining. My name is Annette Epp, and I have the privilege of being the 57th president of the Saskatchewan Medical Association. It's been really exciting. RA, we had a lot of fun last night. We got to hear from Dr. LaFontaine, and I really feel like there's great energy in the room. So I haven't run a meeting before, so please correct me if I'm doing the wrong thing. Dr. Visvanathan. Thank you. So for those who are attending in person, if you have a question, please come to the microphone, and when you ask your question, state your name first. For members that are attending virtually, you can click the little hand icon, and you can also type a question into the chat box, and the SMA staff is going to give me the signal to say that there is somebody who wants to speak, and we will manage it that way. And apparently I'm supposed to teach you how to use Slido. Thank goodness you guys already know. So if you have SMA related questions, they would like you to email communications@sma.sk.ca. But if you require technical help, which I pretty much 100% of the time do, my husband thinks I could work for Google. You need to email dan.brown@encoreglobal.com. So only members can vote, and they get to use Slido. So for motions that we are presenting today, this is how we're going to vote with this polling function. And all members who registered for the AGM should have received an email with the Slido instructions and the participant codes. So if you don't have the codes, please email the communications@sma.sk.ca. There's also a registration desk if you're here that you can go to. So now we want everyone to go to their www.slido.com and enter the meeting code and click the green arrow. So this can be done on your computer, your phone, or the Slido app. Choose whatever option is most convenient, but don't log out of Slido for the duration of the meeting. So then fill in the passcode provided and your information, and then click Join Event. Yeah, the passcode has been emailed to people who registered for the meeting. How do they get the passcode if they don't have it? Go to the oh, is it on the back? No, it's not the same passcode as the RA. It's a different passcode. Yeah. Ivan, can you help me with how they can get the passcode? The passcode will be on the screen. Good thing we did this dry run. Oh, okay, and for the online members who are joining us online, it'll go into the chat box. Thanks, Tanessa. Okay. So did we get the passcode? Sorry, I'm not looking at the right screen. One more minute? Okay. Where's the music? I really liked the Britney Spears this morning. Like, Kishore, did you choose that? Oh, there we go. Okay. Are people getting into Slido? Maybe a show of hands? Yes? Thumbs? Great. Okay. And online, are people doing okay with my online people? Great. Okay. So now we're going to practice voting. So can we go to our polling example? All right. This is a different example than what I had. Oh. Is it okay to invite your cat to attend Zoom meetings? Well, they do whether you invite them or not. All right. This is clearly an obvious answer. Coffee is better than tea. So we're going to open the polling. Maybe. Apparently you have 30 seconds to answer this one, but 20 seconds to answer all the important ones later. Don't know why. Is the polling? Okay, thanks guys. The polling has ended. And yeah, there you go. There's people who abstain. That is unbelievable. Okay, the motion is carried. And now down to business. I would like to present the minutes of the 2022 annual general meeting. And these were emailed to people in their packages. So hopefully people would have had a chance to review them. And if anyone has any questions or substantial revisions to the minutes, then please raise your hand, go to the microphone, or put your hand up in the chat or online, or go to the chat forum. We'll wait for a prescribed amount of time. Is there anything in the chat? Nothing? Okay. So I don't see that there are any identified concerns. So then I am going to ask for approval of the following motion. If you can put the motion up, please. Be it resolved that the minutes of the 2022 Annual General Meeting of the Saskatchewan Medical Association be approved. So it was moved by myself and seconded by Dr. Andre Grobler. Polling has begun. And the polling has ended, and we have unanimous in favor of accepting the minutes. Thank you. Next order of business, I would like to introduce Dr. Andre Grobler, the SMA Vice President, to provide some summary comments regarding the audited 2022 financial statements. Thanks, Dr. Grobler.
Thank you, Dr. Epp. Yeah, it's a privilege again to stand in front of you. Now the Vice President, I'm Dr. Andre Grobler from Prince Albert. I'll be very short. You have a package with your delegate, or with included in all the AGM documents. It's about a 32-page document, so I'm not going to go through all of it. In short, KPMG did give us a clean audit. We had a small operational deficit of $128,000. Total deficit of about $2.6 million, mainly because of markets not performing very well. I'd like to see if there's any questions on the financials, if you had any look at the detailed report. And then there is a resolution after.
So does anyone have questions for Dr. Grobler? And if you do, please raise your hand, go to the microphone. Dr. Jewett? Good morning.
Hi, Dr. Jewett, or this is Dr. Jewett. I just have a question regarding the payments under, would be like note 11. They would be the unexpended payments. So I just want a little explanation from my reading of it. It looks like the unexpended payments are based on retroactive payments from the ministry for any fee adjustments. You know, our agreements are usually like 5 years, and they're not typically negotiated till the middle, so there's retroactive pay on those.
Sorry, what page is that on the KPMG document?
That is page 19.
Marcel, do you think
I'm
you
not
could
sure I'm at the same page. Marcel, maybe just come over here.
shed some light on this?
I guess, yeah, in the PDF, it's page 19. In the actual financial statements, it's page 14.
Page 14.
So my name is Marcel Nobert. I'm SMA staff, and finance is one of the areas I'm responsible for. So if I might So that, the section called unexpended payments generally arises, well, not generally, specifically arises from monies that are set aside for new fee items in the fee schedule. So over time, that balance declines. But what happens when there's an adjustment or a residual reconciliation with what was actually planned into the fee schedule for new fee items and what was actually expensed in the new fee items, the residual comes to the SMA as a annual balance payment. So that fund does grow, and that was the fund that we used, I believe it was in the fall of 2021, to authorize a $15 million disbursement to fee-for-service physicians at the time. So there's a bit of a cyclical nature to that fund. It's less to do with retroactivity of a contract negotiation, but rather one-time payments in lieu of, it's almost like a retroactive adjustment for fees that weren't fully expensed in the fee schedule for new fee items. So that's maybe a complicated answer, but it is a fund that is at the discretion of the board and has been used periodically to provide lump sum payments back to fee-for-service physicians in lieu of adjustments to the payment schedule.
So
It
that
also has some rules around it now in terms of not letting it sort of accumulate unchecked. And so it has to be reviewed periodically by the board and at the board's discretion with consultation with members obviously managed.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious because that would almost be payments that would cover anything that would be like a new fee code. So some physicians would have been subject to earn that, I guess, dating back, and others wouldn't have.
Yeah, so I guess in lieu of fee codes that were either never put in, or fee codes that didn't cost as much as they were anticipated to cost in any given period. So I guess the original intent of those fees is to create new fee codes or to add to the payment schedule. So I guess they would benefit specifically certain physicians more than other physicians, depending on the section you're in and the practice that you provide. But in lieu of that, instead of having the money just stay with the ministry, that annual one-time disbursement comes to the SMA to hold essentially as funds that can be used to benefit the membership or otherwise as directed by the board or the RA. And again, that was the basis of the one-time, we called it a lump sum payment, but it probably felt like a retro payment for those of you who received one as a fee-for-service physician. You would have received the monies in January 2022. The resolution was made in the fall of 2021, and one of the caveats to that resolution was for the board to manage that fund, because it does grow. There's a couple $1 million that go into it every year until such time as that fund depletes fully. So likely there'll be some kind of cyclical reinvestment into the membership based on the parameters that the RA put on it at the fall RA in 2021.
So just one more clarification on that. So that would be typically funds in the ministry's budget for fees, I guess, and then if there's a discrepancy between what they've budgeted and what's actually been paid, then that surplus goes into the fund?
It's slightly more technical than that. So this is basically, in prior contracts, there was funds set aside to put new fee items into the fee schedule. So it has less to do with budgeted and actual expenditures in any given year of fees that have been there for a while or fees that are no longer being monitored. This has to do with a discretionary fund that allows new fees to be implemented into the fee schedule. So for a period of time, they're monitored against actual performance, and that discrepancy is reimbursed to the SMA if it doesn't meet the anticipated expenditures. And there's still some residual left that is unallocated that could be used for new fee items through the tariff process as well. So that's what that fund is there for.
Okay. So it is pretty complex, which is kind of what I thought.
Yes, but the good news is it belongs to the association and therefore the members to disperse as the wisdom of the room sees fit.
Thank you.
And it is advantageous to physicians, so we have the flexibility to build new fees into the fee code if we need to during that time. And the money isn't clawed back by ministry. So, I think it's a beneficial spot for it to be. It's just being much more closely monitored now. Any other questions? Nothing online? Okay. Then we'll call the motion if that's okay. If you can bring that up, please. Be it resolved that the audited financial statements of the Saskatchewan Medical Association for the year ending December 31, 2022 will be accepted as circulated. And this is moved by Dr. Grobler and seconded by Dr. Pamela Arnold. All right, so that is unanimously accepted and the motion passes. Thank you so much, Andre. I'm not gonna lie, with the playlist that's going, I feel like I'm gonna ask for Backstreet Boys pretty soon. So next order of business is literally business from the floor. And we always look forward to hearing from members on important topics that are affecting our profession. And this is the time in the meeting where the floor is open to any member who have business they want to bring forward. And if there are people online who want to raise their hands or put questions in the chat, please feel free to do that. And otherwise, people in this room, please go to the microphones. Well, there isn't any action in the room. Is there anything online? Sorry, Julie, I'm looking to you. Nothing? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to take that as a good sign. So next on our agenda are the proposed amendments to the SMA bylaws. And I'm going to give a short presentation about this. Riche McKay gave a presentation yesterday, which was really comprehensive and very helpful to the RA. And now we're bringing this to the annual general meeting for the resolutions to be passed, or the bylaws to be passed, if the membership so wishes. So I'm just going to let you know that in the room, Riche is here for support and help if we have questions, and also Dr. Kaura, who sits on the Legend Policy Committee, which is chaired by Dr. George Carson, but Dr. Kaura is here, so thank you very much. So we're going to refer to your expertise if we have any concerns. So if you can bring up the, thanks Riche, first slide. So basically, our SMA bylaws were last amended in 2016. And since that time, some housekeeping and what they call alignment amendments have been identified. And when the Saskatchewan Health Authority was created, then this actually required the SMA to change some of our structure so that we were consistent with the new provincial organization. So this is kind of how it started. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history. Next slide. So then at the 2021 Spring RA, there were several resolutions that were passed regarding the reconfiguration and transition into our current medical staff associations, which we now have. And this required related amendments to the bylaws. So at the 2021 Fall RA, this special committee on SMA governance was struck. Well, it wasn't struck, it was approved, so that we could look at the bylaws that needed to be addressed, given the new structure of the medical staff associations. So this special committee, which worked very, very hard, Namdi, you were on that, weren't you? Yeah, you guys had a lot of meetings. and they made recommendations to the 2022 Fall RA. And at the 2022 Fall RA, which was the last RA that we held, the RA passed a suite of resolutions respecting these amendments to the SMA bylaws. Fast forward, then we have a Legend Policy Committee, which is very active and has worked very hard to look at these resolutions and translate them into the proposed bylaw amendments that are currently going to be talked about today. So these amendments have been through several iterations and processes and have been looked at very, very carefully by expert eyes. They've also been reviewed by the board of directors, and then yesterday at the level of the RA. And so they've gone through those processes and been approved, but the ultimate approval must come from the membership of the SMA, which is why we're here at the AGM for final approval. And in order to approve the amendments, we have to have 75% in favor. Correct? Have I said anything out of step yet? Okay, she's checking me. So you would have received in your package a 42-page document that had details about this, but they broke it down in a really nice way because they actually have columns in that document that have the current bylaw as it exists today, then the proposed amendments that have been put forward now by the Legend Policy Committee, although it's gone through these other iterations, starting with this Special Governance Committee, and then another column which outlines the reasoning and rationale why the bylaw amendments have been proposed. So it's actually pretty clear because even I could understand it. And so this presentation is kind of high level, so we're just going to go through the highlights because the detail is all in the documents that were sent to you. So first and foremost, regarding the medical staff associations. So medical staff associations must file an annual budget and a financial statement with the SMA. These are for information, not for approval. As has been the practice, this is not new, but they must file it. The medical staff associations must consider the values of equity, diversity, and inclusion when electing delegates. I'm pretty proud of that. Amended representation by population formula has been done now. So previously, or as it currently stands, there are 15 delegates for more than 500 members, but now the change will be that if you have 600 to 750 members, you will get 16 delegates. 751 to 1,000 members, you will get 17 delegates, and 1,000 plus will get 18 delegates. Next slide. So as far as the sections go, so that was the medical staff associations, now we're moving on to the sections. The sections must also file an annual budget and financial statement with the SMA. And they also have an amended rep by pop formula. So as it stands now, you get one delegate for 10 or more members, but the amendment will be that if you have 11 to 100, you will get one delegate. If you have 101 to 499, your section will get 2 delegates. If you have more than 500 members, you will get 3 delegates. That's pretty straightforward. Anything to add? No, okay. And 2 committees that we need to talk about. First is the nominations committee. So for honestly pragmatic and really better representation and transparency, we moved from the nominating committee to what's called the Nomination and Appointments Committee, the NAC. And this will be consisted of 3 members elected by and from the RA who are not on the board, and then 2 members who are actually not on the RA or the board. So this is from the general membership, and these members will be appointed by the board. And as tradition has had it, the non-voting chair has been the past president and will continue to be the past president. Next slide. So what is the mandate of the Nominating and Appointments Committee? Well, it will prepare the slate of nominees for election by the RA. It will also recommend candidates to be appointed by the board and recommend candidates for awards. This committee is asked to consider the values of equity, diversity, and inclusion, but also has a matrix that includes competence, experience, distribution of responsibilities within the SMA, subdivisions, and geographic location, because we really need a mix of a variety of people to do the work of this organization. And so that is really the mandate of this amalgamated new committee. And the purpose is to get better representation from our membership throughout, and a process that has some teeth, that you can look at and know why people were selected. And then the last committee that's got amendments is the Finance Committee. And so the Finance Committee includes the Honorary Treasurer, then 2 members who are appointed by the board, and 2 members elected by and from the RA who are not on the board. So again, to give a little bit wider scope and access to these committees for people across our membership. So if there are questions, concerns, now is the time. And if there aren't, then we will put up the resolution, which is there, but. Good morning, Dr. Opondo.
Yeah, thank you, President, now, of the SMA. My question is one of the earlier slides that was talking about sections and sections needing to present annual statements for information.
Okay, Riche is going to help me answer that,
Yeah.
because that is a point of law, process, legislation. I don't know.
Yeah, the question I hope isn't super tricky, but certainly I think it is in Riche's ballpark. So our section is pretty small, and we did levy annual dues until a few years ago, actually almost about 5 years ago. It was more trouble than it was worth maintaining a bank account for a very small section. So we closed that, and the section voted that we don't contribute any dues. Those of us who work for our section do it for free, like many of us do. So I just would like to hear if there's any comment on that situation. This may not be unique just to the section of public health.
I think that would just be very simply, each year your section would submit something that said we have no finances and so we have no budget. And that would be what you would submit.
Thank you.
That was easy. I need that button. Any other questions, concerns? These have been through a pretty rigorous process, I would say.
Dr. Apte, I just want to be absolutely sure. So when the slate is put forward, it'll be sort of laid out clearly before we are invited to vote. You know, the reasons people were chosen, that's going to be part of the process, or no?
Well, I think the process is outlined here, but once the slate is chosen, I don't think that the reasons are,
Okay.
listed. That wouldn't
Yeah,
that
fair
wouldn't
enough.
be part of the.
Yeah.
But it is the understanding that those are the things that are taken into consideration when this committee makes recommendations, so that the membership knows that that's the criteria they're using.
Okay, thank you.
A question from the chat? Oh, the chair of the Budget and Policy Committee, okay. Is he speaking? Is it in the chat box?
Carson?
George.
I'm trying.
Oh, we can hear you, George. Hi, it's Annette.
Himself again.
Oh, you're muted now.
Thank you. I think I've been invited to be unmuted. There's a trust in the combination point committee. Try and get really good to serve the SNA. It would hope that the trust. That the
George,
committee
I'm
will
sorry.
consider all these details.
George, I'm sorry, it's Annette again. You're kind of muffled, so unfortunately we can hear that you're speaking, but we cannot hear what you are speaking. Can you type the question? And then if you're typing it, oh, hi, now we can see you.
Hello.
Okay, try again.
It's just to say that the hope was the change made, the nomination committee would produce both really high quality people and their vacancy and not all those details necessarily to everybody when candidates put forward.
Okay, I'm gonna, yeah, you need to lean into your mic, George. We caught most of it.
Okay,
They're better? Yeah, good job.
thank you. The hope
No,
that the amended function of the nominating committee would produce an even better candidates that would serve so well.
Yes.
It's not that all of it as to what we do for the selection.
George, I'm going to have to interrupt you because you're cutting in and out, but I think the bottom line is that it was a very thoughtful process to try and make sure that candidates that were brought forward had been vetted through a pretty rigorous set of criteria. And of course, there's still discretionary things, but that it would be much better than in the past. Is that right, Dr. Kalra? Okay, thank you for representing Dr. Carson. Sorry, George, that we can't hear you. Dr. Mula.
Yeah, I just want to add on to this. Like in the past, we've had people being presented at the RA last minute, and so that would negate the actual activity of the nominating committee vetting all these people. Are we still going to allow that to happen, or how much notice should the people give in advance of the RA that there's a last minute?
That would be a constitutional question.
So nominations from the floor will still be permitted. But if you look back at the information that was provided to the fall 2022 RA, there was a specific process set out for how that would be followed, and it would include a requirement that anybody who is nominated from the floor would have to provide some sort of bio before the election occurred, so that at least everybody had some background information on them to consider, in addition to the candidates who had been nominated by the Nominations and Appointments Committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from online? Okay, well, I think we can go to this resolution. Be it resolved that the amendments to the SMA bylaws as presented to the spring 2023 AGM be adopted. And this is moved by Dr. Kalra and seconded by Dr. Jeffrey. All right, and we have unanimous support, and that motion is passed. That was a lot of work. a lot of work by the interim special committee and the Legend Policy Committee, and honestly, that makes it so easy for members when we know the kind of dedication that goes into looking at these governance issues, and hopefully it's going to make our organization that much stronger. So thank you so much. And with that, because the music has been so disturbing, I am going to declare, no, the music has been great. And the people have been great. It's been an amazing couple of days, and I thank you all for attending and for your contributions to the organization, to the profession, to your patients. And I now declare the 2023 Spring Annual General Meeting adjourned. What? Oh, I guess there's a resolution to adjourn. Sorry, I messed up. Keep your Slido open. Be it resolved that the 2023 AGM of the SMA be adjourned. Moved by Dr. Holinati, seconded by someone.